I watched them all, and I cried, and I cried. That's a bit sarcastic. I didn't actually cry, but with that being said, I did watch these games, and Jaylen Brown, he comes in at number 5 here. You asked me this last year. He's probably not even making the top 10. If he's in top 10, he's at number 10. I wouldn't even consider him a small forward on most teams, but that's where he's playing mostly on that Boston team with Tatum playing up to power forward. He showed me a different Jaylen Brown that I didn't know before during those playoffs. I was finally kind of starting to understand why they want to build that team around him and Tatum. They are both great young players, and I I struggle. I know it's Tatum's team right now, but I struggle to see if in a couple of years if Brown couldn't be better than Tatum overall.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a guy who Boston, like a lot of like Boston was clearly very in on him from the start. And like you said, necessarily, he didn't always pass the eye test where we knew he was very athletic, but we didn't know if he was going to be a consistent scorer in this league. I mean, his first 3 years, he never averaged 15 per game.
Right?
He never shot that great from the three, where yes, he did shoot 39% in year two, but then he dropped to 34% the year after. In his first year, he was also 34%. And I remember, I'm personally a Boston fan too, and I remember the playoff run 2 years ago where it felt like every time Jaylen Brown was taking a three in the playoffs, he couldn't make it. And then, like you said, he just took a big stride this year where the moment didn't seem to affect him this much. And I feel like, as again, a fan watching the game of a team where you have a guy who you want him to perform in the big moments and he doesn't, and then you see the next year that he is, it does give you that comfort. But still, it makes me wonder if we're going to be able to see it long term. So I hope we can, because in terms of everywhere else, Sean Brown's great. He's great on offense in terms of being super athletic, could blow by guys. He's great on defense. He's one of the strongest guys at small forward, one of the fastest guys at small forward. So yeah, as long as he could just be a consistent shooter and keep improving there, he would definitely deserve his top five spot.
Yeah, I think he was shooting the ball very well in the playoffs. He was playing very well in the playoffs
This year, yes.
this year. This year,
Yes.
I can't. I don't really think of him in past years, but just because I think that he demonstrated such a high capability to up his play that I don't see him regressing. I see him kind of in the same realm as Siakam last year, where or 2 years ago I should say at this point, where he made such a big jump, and then we're just like, we didn't think, oh, maybe he'll regress, maybe he'll put up a similar year. We're like, no, man, he's a star, he's a stud. That's kind of what we're thinking about Jaylen Brown right now. That's how good he played in my most recent memory.
No, I would definitely agree. I mean, overall, it's a guy who I would doubt is going to regress. And the big thing with it too, even though, like I said, it felt like he missed a lot of shots. Maybe it's the memory also hazing it because you don't remember what year it is sometimes. Like I mean, looking at the playoff stats now, it was really the first year when he was in the playoffs where he struggled, where he only shot 21% from the three. Last 2 years, he has shot 35% in the playoffs, which again, not great, but it's good. But this year specifically, I felt like the shots he was taking, even though the was better, was about the same, were a lot better in comparison to the other years in playoff runs. Where when he was taking a three, I wasn't aggravated. It felt like a good shot when he was taking it. It felt like at the times they needed him to make it as well, he made them. So that's where Jalen Brown, I felt like just in terms of the eye test, also looked a lot better this year.
And we're talking offensively, but the eye test on defense is what turned my head in the playoffs.
Oh, he's one of the best, maybe aside from LeBron, Kawhi, and Butler. Yeah, if it
Probably
wasn't,
the best
yeah,
in this position. It may potentially he could potentially be one of the best in the league. He's going to be an All NBA defender for the rest of his career. He's at least going to have a couple years where he's on the All NBA teams. He's that good. He's still that young, but he's that good.
yeah, and I mean even like Kawhi, it's mainly just a factor of like his hands are so big and stuff like that. Like Brown is just a freak athlete on defense.
He he, he just puts in a little more effort than everyone else, and like I say, it's not something I ever realized before. I never watched enough Celtics games. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe that's also because of the ones I did watch from before. They didn't put he wasn't as big of a part of the offense. You know, when they first brought in Hayward, they really wanted to force him into being that star player because they were paying him so much money. Brown is just young. They also had Rozier that year. They've always had these great players come through. They had Kyrie Irving come in before. But right now, it truly does feel like it's Brown and Tatum's team, which hurts me a little bit because I put Siakam and Tatum on the same level, but right now I sadly put Brown on a different level, different playing field than OG, which scares me for the future of the Raptors. But it really looks great if you're a Celtics fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's again a team that I talked about a couple of different players with how good they were in wins versus losses. Same with Jaylen Brown. He averaged over 22 points per game in the wins, under 16 per game, or just over 16 per game in the losses. Lucky for Boston, they're a team that wins a lot. So that's where the stat looks a lot better. Again, when you're a team in the playoffs who needs to get 7 wins, and you know that you have a guy who, on those nights that again, in a 7 game series, if he's showing up, putting up 22 in at least 5 of those games, like, yeah, that deserves a top 5 spot for small forward, honestly.
There you go. See, I convinced you into it now,
It's a
which I didn't. I didn't think I would be the one that needed to be convincing someone, but
it's a great player. It's more so just a matter of personal choice between Middleton. Some people may even say DeRozan. DeRozan just a more efficient scorer. But in terms of long term, who the best player, Middleton,
over the next 10 years.
Jaylen Brown, I would take Jaylen Brown easily. I wouldn't hesitate. If I had Jaylen Brown in the fantasy draft and those 2 other guys, it would just be bam, next pick. I wouldn't even hesitate.
The funny thing is that we're going up to number 4